Hi guys, what's up? Welcome. It's Jack here, back with another impromptu random ass video for YouTube. This is our quick review for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. My experience with Assassin's Creed has been a tiny bit of Assassin's Creed 1 back in the day, back when it was first released when I was in high school. I played it a little bit. I then played Assassin's Creed 2, which was my game. I got it for my birthday one year and I absolutely loved it. I completed it pretty much 100%, did all the stuff, loved Ezio to bits. It was a good time. It was probably, at the time and for the longest of time, my favourite installment in the franchise. Odyssey has been my return to the series, if you like, these many years later. I heard very good things about Origins and Odyssey, and obviously with the release of Valhalla not too long ago, I thought, why not dive in and have a look at Assassin's Creed? Decide by playing one of the more recent entries whether Valhalla is, worth my time and worth my money. So I came into this game, if I'm being completely honest, I came into this game not expecting it to be that great at all. I thought it was going to be fairly average. The game obviously looks great. I mean, any kind of rando can look at the footage of these kind of games and think, damn, that actually looks like a pretty sick game. But my gamer experience over the years has taught me that, once you get going with these kind of things, they are kind of boring and repetitive most of the time. So I started off with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. My hopes were not high, but obviously I wanted to give it a fair chance. I started day one and I thought, hey, dude, Greece looks fucking amazing. I liked the option that I could pick Cassandra or, well, I nearly said something, Alexios, we'll say. I liked the option that you could pick, and I thought, hey, we're going to play as Cassandra and see how we go. Some people had talked about the voice acting of Deimos being particularly strange. I'll let you guys make your own mind up on that front. We might even talk about it a bit later, but without too much nonsense. I played day one and day two of this game, and my honest opinion of it at the beginning was that I thought it was trash. I thought it was, hey, just as I expected, it was just another random mundane, kind of not empty world, because in the beginning the game isn't like that. I think that my main kind of hesitations were what I expected it to be, and then there's a fail, and then also I was getting a bit kind of bummed with the kind of combat. I thought the combat felt very kind of slow, and I kept using the word stodgy. I felt like all the enemies were very heavy meat sponges. I felt like nobody took any damage. You were fighting one or two guys for like ages and ages. If you went into a stealth segment and you fucked up the stealth by let's say you fall off a roof or you climb along a wall accidentally and then mess it up or something, then I was getting fed up of fighting guys for ages and ages. So we started off on hard mode and actually changed it back down to normal. Now this followed suit for the first 2 or 3 days of the game, and then after that I was like, right, you know what? Everybody keeps saying really good things about this game. I gotta give it its fair chance. So I did. I went back after 2 or 3 days, and I kept playing it, and I'm glad that I did, because honestly, this game really starts to shine once you get into the deeper aspects of it. So what I should probably mention is that the first thing I really enjoyed about the game, obviously, is how nice everything looks, how fantastic ancient Greece looks. Even just in the kind of gameplay I've got going on behind me, you can see that it looks amazing. They've got all this day and night cycle, so you get the landscape in different, lighting dynamics. You've got all these different parts of Greece as well. So you start off in, everything's very tropical, but you start off in a kind of dusty, kind of rundown island, and then obviously later on, as you go to the other places, you find the big cities, you find the ancient temples, you find the ruins, you find everything you'd expect in a game like this. So Greece, first of all, looks absolutely flawless, and you can see that's, they play to their strengths with Assassin's Creed games these days. I feel like they do still look just as fantastic as they always did back in the day, which is really quite something. On top of that, Cassandra and her voice actress is pretty cool. I've heard people talking about it, so I won't talk about it myself too much, but Cassandra's pretty sick. I really liked her, and over the course of the journey, although sometimes the delivery lines can be a bit kind of random, and sometimes the accents can slip here and there from time to time, I feel like for the most part Cassandra was a fantastic hero, and I loved playing as her. I thought she was fantastic. So the storyline is also pretty good as well. I like some of the systems they introduced with this game. The cultist that they bring in, the cultist system where you track down the cultist, is probably my favourite. I thought that was really cool, how you could, tracking down the clues was fairly simplistic and almost mundane at times, hidden away in little corners, talking to certain people or doing certain quests. I liked the idea of it. It was the progression up the chain of command that I really enjoyed. It was the fact that when you kill one cultist, it unveils the next one, and then you can slowly work your way towards the ending of that. The ending of the cultist for me was a little bit kind of, not disappointing, but when I unveiled the last cultist, the final one, I expected, a big massive kind of encounter. I was kind of building towards it the whole game, and I felt like I didn't really get that. So I will mention that quickly, but That's by the by. That's like a minor detail. They've also got the bow battles in this game as well, which I hadn't played Black Flag, although I'd heard things about Black Flag, including my brother's opinion, who speaks very highly of the game. I hadn't actually played it myself, if at all. So the boat battles were kind of new to me. Again, it was really cool that I could customize my ship. It was really good that I could customize Cassandra herself with all the skill upgrades, and obviously all of your armor and weapons as well needs to be touched on, because one of the things I was worried about in a game like this is how much selection of choice you have of your visuals, because when you play an Assassin's Creed game, everybody plays as either Cassandra or Alexios, but everybody, people will want to play with different styles, different armor sets. You want to have different looks. Some people will prefer the hood, some people like the full Spartan armor. So I really do think that they should be commended in this game for giving you such a wide selection. It's something I talked about heavily while I was playing, and it was actually really cool to see in the game itself. You've got your spears, axes, swords, daggers, your bow and arrow, obviously, and then again all your armor sets. There's a couple of funny ones in there. You can see the Minotaur floating about in the screen in the background there. We wore that for a little while, which was pretty chill. I liked that within the armor itself as well as like customizing the visuals, you've got all these sets you can find which have bonuses, which was nice. So there's a bit of collection going on there. I also liked that you could to a certain degree have a bunch of different play styles. So you could have like a crit build, you could have an assassin build, you could have a warrior build, a hunter build if you prefer using your bow and arrow, and then later on you get your fire builds, poison builds, and then to a certain degree crit. So there was a lot of kind of selection in terms of build tier going on there. I feel like because of that, the game might have a little bit of replayability as well, because you might find that in one playthrough you find yourself playing as like, a hunter using the bow and arrow all the time, and then later on you might find that you prefer using, I don't know, something cool like fire. We were building a fire build at the end of the game, and it was actually pretty sick. So I don't know if that's of any interest to you, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like overall that was one of the parts that impressed me the most. And again, I think if you were to go through and play Odyssey again, you could definitely try out some new stuff. I felt like, as just a personal pointer for my specific builds in this game, is I typically favoured the warrior build because I had a couple of instances where I was climbing about inside the castles and the forts, and then although it was really handy to have assassin damage for picking people off, I felt like as soon as you get busted, as soon as you mess up once, which can happen due to like, your own player fault, but then sometimes the game is like really cheesy about stuff. Like sometimes you'll be trying to air assassinate someone, and then by trying to push circle and climb back down a ledge to maybe get closer to a target, Cassandra will end up like, I don't know, literally falling off the edge, or she will like jump in a weird direction, and then suddenly you land in a circle of mercenaries or whatever, and then you get caught. Speaking of mercenaries, I do think the mercenary system in this game is unusual, and it's quite interesting. I remember watching a review before I played this game, and someone talked about how every time the mercenary horn, they felt this rush of adrenaline and they really liked it. I'm going to be honest, guys, by the time I got to the end of this game, because we did get to the end of it, I should have said that at the beginning, we got about 50, 60 hours out of this game. We killed all the cultists, got to level 50, defeated all of the things to do with your dad in Atlantis, and we won't talk about that too much, but we did all that stuff. I'm going to tell you guys right now, it wasn't very long before I realised how annoying the mercenary system was. Again, it was a cool idea, and it's nice that you can pay off the bounties. I get that you can go and assassinate the target and reduce your bounty, but sometimes the mercenaries turn up at the most inopportune moments, and I do admit that in the beginning it's a nice idea. It's like you're fighting confrontation, you're maybe assassinating an important target, or you're having a fight with someone important, and then the horn blows, and then the mercenary turns up and it's absolute chaos. It's kind of fun at first, but then it quickly becomes very frustrating, or at least it was for me. I can't speak for everyone, but it was very frustrating, and it gets to the point that every time you hear the horn go, I just felt like I was sighing all the time. It's like, oh jeez, dude, brilliant. Yeah, here's Billy and his mates coming again, fantastic. Sometimes you reduce your mercenary bounty, and then they immediately turn back up again like 2 minutes later. As soon as you assassinate like someone of high importance, let's say like a leader or something, it feels like your notoriety is suddenly way back up, and then the mercenaries are returning again and constantly getting in your ass, which got a bit frustrating at times. So yeah, I won't talk about it too much, but for the most part, the game was pretty solid, much better than I thought. There's a ton of content here if you are really interested in picking up a cheap game and you haven't tried an Assassin's Creed game in a while. You have to give it time though. There's a couple of things in the beginning. Again, the combat did feel very sluggish, but once you get your gear, once you can build towards a certain path in your gear as well, once you take a couple of skill points, which is very important. There is a skill point in the warrior tree, which is basically just flat damage when you're hitting with any of your weapons. You start off with 20, you level up, you go to 30, 30, and then I think by the end of the game you go to 40 perhaps, or maybe it's 30 and 40, 20 and 30, I don't know. But regardless, there are perks in the skill tree, there are sets of armor that you can do to build, and then suddenly the combat becomes so much more enjoyable. But in the beginning, getting over that initial hump is pretty slow, so give it a chance. If you get to if you're playing the beginning and you feel like you're just not interested in fighting 5 guys with 5,000 HP, it's not always like that. You just have to get over the initial burst. But the storyline was pretty good. Again, the quests, and as you know, to be completely fair, when you get to the late game and you've been playing the game for like 40 hours again, at that point I feel like I've already had my money's worth, but maybe that's different for you. You will start to realise that a lot of the quests, just like always, are kind of systematic and similar in a sense. You know, you speak to someone and they've got one of 3 things going on. Either you have to go and find someone, or go and kill someone, or go and fetch them an item. You know, go out into the woods and collect me herbs for medicine, go out into the woods and kill a bear for me, go and find my missing son, he was last seen at the brothel. It's like a lot of these times you go to each island and there's like 2 to 4 quests going on, sometimes a lot more in the bigger islands, and that's cool if you really, really do love this game. But you will, you know, if I'm being honest with you guys, anybody who's played a ton of video games, you're going to realise that these things are kind of, you know, similar. But luckily the main quest kind of drives it home. I was interested to see what happened towards the end of the main quests, and again, the cultist stuff was like my favourite part of the game. There's a couple of little cinematics here and there. Obviously, the vistas that you can find are pretty cool. They gives you that nice kick. And again, some of the other characters you meet along the way, they've got a lot of Greek kind of philosophy characters in here. So you've got like your Socrates character, and obviously your Hippocrates and all these other lads, which is fine. And then on top of that, you've got some other kind of bigger, badder Greek mythological monsters as well, which is pretty sick. I didn't play the DLC, but maybe one day I could see myself going back and doing it. But for the time being, Assassin's Creed kept me busy for a decent amount of time, and I'm glad we tried it. I think we might actually end up giving Valhalla a go as a result. But that's pretty much it. I don't want you to waffle too long, guys. My thoughts were very much given to you in flow format there. There was not really much of a system, but I hope I covered most of the good and the bad points about this game. For the most part, Assassin's Creed, kind of what you would expect at this point in a modern Assassin's Creed game, but maybe a little bit better than you might expect. Game looks phenomenal. Combat takes a while to understand, and once you get the right gear and the right skill points, becomes actually quite fun, if not a little repetitive. And then on top of that, you know, the voice acting, the story, it's a little bit better than I expected. I will quickly touch on the fact that there is still some modern day animus stuff going on with this game. Didn't really make a lot of sense to me, but then I was coming back into the series having not a lot of experience with some of the more recent games, and therefore my understanding of what's going on there was filled in by the Twitch chat, and even then it was like, dude, do I even really care about this stuff? I'm not sure. Some of it was quite intriguing, but there's a couple of new characters in there that seemed a bit sketchy, and then, you know, there's always this kind of, when you come into a game like this, it just feels like you're just part of the perpetual chain of, do we want to make another game? Okay, let's just throw in some content and string the player base along a little bit. It doesn't really ever seem like there's anything meaningful going on. It's like, okay, they find out a new part of the past or the future or whatever else they're doing with the Animus, and then they just move on to the next game. So I hope that covers it, guys. This was meant to be a short review, so without further mumbo jumbo, thank you for being here. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next quick review. GG's.